Now the skies are painted red, and a chemical haze hangs over the world. Cruel tyrants rule the remaining pockets of civilization we call Vills, while vicious red-eyed mutants terrorize the unprotected lands.
We are talking Deathlands, Homeward Bound, and this is a kind of post-apocalyptic science fiction movie actually based on a series of books. I think Homeward Bound is actually one of the books. I suspect, although I cannot find any confirmation of this, this was actually a pilot for a TV show that never actually got picked up. And we've got basically Vincent Spano as our main character, who's kind of the hero. And Jenya Lano, who is one of my celebrity crushes, is kind of like his girlfriend. And we've also got Tracy Lords, who plays one of the bad guys. Interestingly, Tracy Lords and Jenya Lano were both in the original Blade movie. So there you go, a little fun fact for you. So this is, say, based on a kind of a series of books which was published by Harlequin novels, although they were made for men. And apparently it's got different writers, all who use the pseudonym of James Axon, I think it is. And yeah, it kind of feels like it, if we're honest. You know, it very much feels like a TV sort of pilot, and this is like just one episode in a way. But what is the kind of the background? What's the story? So we have a vaguely defined post-apocalyptic future, and we learn that there's mutants and various kind of different houses, kind of like Game of Thrones in a lot of ways. And Vincent Spano's character is actually a kind of lord, if you like, of one of these houses, but had run away because his brother tried to have him murdered when he was younger and kind of just wanted to get away from it ultimately. He has this girlfriend played by Jenya Lano who has some vaguely defined superpowers that are something to do with Gaia. We don't know anything about it. We have this other guy who's like an albino mutant and a kind of tech guy. And the story really focuses on this quest, so to speak, of having Vincent Spano's character having to go back to his homeland, his where he kind of grew up, and face his brother who tried to have him killed, and his wife and mother-in-law, played by Tracy Lords, who is in proper Game of Thrones mode, complete with incest in it with her son. And that's kind of your setup for your adventure there. So first of all, let's talk about what works in Deathlands. Number one, it's got Jenya Lano in it. I have personally invested in Jenya Lano, I must say. She has done a huge lot, and she doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, if we're completely honest with you. She is more of just the love interest that kind of tags on and proves she's the sassy female character, but there you go, you know. I do like it feels like a novel is the best way. It kind of feels like a young adult kind of series of books. It really does. But one of the things I did like was the heavy use of filters in this movie to kind of give this it's like a bleached out red look. Whenever we have external shots kind of out, you know, in the wilderness and stuff, the camera always has this kind of red lens, which certainly does give it almost a Martian sort of feel to it. And I'm guessing it's supposed to be this kind of like nuclear dust or whatever is in the air. But I've got to say, it's quite effective. I mean, it's cheap. It's a cheap effect, but nonetheless, it is quite good. And I have to say, I quite liked it. It does wash out all the other colour though, so it may be a little bit annoying. Maybe a little bit too much, to be fair. I think the world that this takes place in sounds like it could be interesting, although we don't know anything about it. This movie doesn't set up anything about the world. Like I said, it really does. If this was in actual fact, this doesn't feel like a pilot. This feels like an episode, you know, with an already established mythology. It does not feel like a pilot because we don't know anything about the world. We don't know anything about how these characters got together. Nothing. So it's kind of, it feels like you're going in, you know, already with missing some stuff. Now that might be great if you are a fan of the books. But if you're not, if you've never read them before, it feels like you've missed something, even though you actually haven't. I actually quite like Vincent Spano in the role here. I think he was quite a likeable sort of character, and kind of reminds me a little bit of Snake Plissken actually, with his with his eye patch and all of that. And I was surprised there was actually a couple of scenes of gore here. So even though I do suspect this was a TV episode, I mean there was a couple of shots where we see cannibals and stuff like that, and there are some relatively gory shots in regards to that. And as I've mentioned, there is a little bit of incest, and we actually get like Tracy Lord's on-screen son kissing her and grabbing her boob on camera. So I thought, wow, that's possibly a little bit kind of too spicy for regular TV. So I'm wondering if this was maybe why this was never heard of again. But it certainly does give you Game of Thrones vibes, although it's obviously set in a futuristic post-apocalyptic society. It does feel very much like that, very much of houses and things like this, and kind of the politics that are involved. But to be honest with you, it's so hammy. The cast here are just like super hammy. If you've watched Game of Thrones, takes itself seriously, This doesn't, and for example, the Vincent Spano's brother, the kind of the lord of the manor, so to speak, he is meant to be mad, but he's just wacky. And like Tracy Lords, who is the biggest name probably in the movie, that's why she was, not going to be in any others. Let me put it like this, even if it's worth to carry on. But it's just like she's completely hamming. Everyone's really hamming it up. The acting is just dialed up to TV cheese number 11. I think Spano does the best job here, and Lano does what she can with the role, but she doesn't have anything to do. The other two kind of members of this foursome are just massively kind of overacting. The plot is absolutely pedestrian in regards to what you think it's going to happen. I mean, this is like one of those things that you see all TV shows recycle certain plots. I mean, if you've watched a lot of science fiction, for example, at some point you'll have like a body swap episode, at some point you'll have like a time loop episode, something along the lines of that. And it just feels like this will be kind of like the standard kind of template for any type of TV show, fantasy or science fiction kind of TV show, dealing with one's relatives that are somewhat tyrannical and stuff like that. It feels so by the numbers. It doesn't really have any visual flair. We never really kind of get out of the world. Like I said, I kind of like the red filter. They've got kind of like quite cool looking futuristic truck, but that's it. We're told that there's mutants, and one of the kind of the protagonists is a mutant, but he just looks like some albino that has like roid rage. There's just nothing else with it. It's just really, really bland, and just really, really cheesy, to be honest. This is the sort of thing that would end up on TV on the Sci-Fi channel, if it were to get picked up, which obviously it never was. So I'm sure maybe the books are probably better than this. I haven't read them, as I say, but it does seem like they're kind of, I mean, as far as I know about the books, they were just a bunch of ghostwriters making sort of interconnected stories under this kind of like this one pseudonym, just to knock out Harlequin for men stories, generic cookie cutter science fiction, post-apocalyptic stuff, and that absolutely kind of nails this movie down. Just generic cookie cutter, but quite poorly done in a weird sort of TV generic manner. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It was quite painful to watch, to be honest with you. Have you ever seen it? Have you heard of it? Are you a fan of the books? And if so, how does it compare to this? Or did you like the books? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.